Hi, this is Kim White with the My Sexy Business team, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host again,
Kristi Bridges from One Moment Wiser.
We are at the Hope to Hope conference, and I'm telling you what, this has been awesome sauce.
Yes.
If you need hope from just about anything you can think of, there's somebody that's addressed it.
That's right.
And our next guest is, okay, I have to back up. He's one of my favorite people, but don't tell him. Because then don't tell him that he's one of my favorite people. He is an incredible powerhouse that shares the same space with us. That's what's so amazing. He is like in our world. And he is a TBN host. He's a pastor of a thriving church in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's married to the most beautiful princess. He has so many things going. Like, there's a whole list of things he does for the community, for church, but he's also an entrepreneur through and through. He's got several businesses. He has an academy that helps leaders. He helps church leaders. He helps business leaders. He does ministry marketplace. I could go on and on, but instead of going on and on, I'm just going to introduce you to Pastor Marcus Howard.
Well, thank you so much, Kim and Kristi. I am so excited to be on Hope for Hope.
Well, we're glad you're here. We are definitely glad you're here. We are touching on a lot of subjects that are hard. And I think that that's one of those things that a lot of people want to steer away from, the hard stuff, because we don't know how to deal with it. But we have brought on some amazing people who have touched on so many different areas. But you've got one we haven't touched on yet. Not in the way that you do it. You have many stories. That's the first thing. You have many different stories and are such an encourager.
Yeah, you know what? I tell you what, life gives you a ton of stories. And the best thing that we can do, Kim, is to learn from life and then encourage others. I just believe that that's why God allows us to go through certain things that we go through, because we're just meant for it. Whenever we go through anything, it's because we're already built up for it, and we can make it through. It doesn't have to overcome us. It doesn't have to conquer us. We can overcome it, and we can conquer it, because we need to encourage somebody else who's coming behind us who may not be as strong.
See, that's what I mean. Anybody that's listening already has had like the whole thing. He goes from 0 to 60.
Love that nutshell. Everything we've been talking about for 2 days so far, all in one sentence. That was awesome.
That's awesome. Well, you definitely get having loss and having pain in your life and having the struggle of, going through hard things and then coming out the other side to help other people not have to go through those things or to go through them better. There are so many things we go through that we're alone. We feel alone.
Right.
And you have created quite a few different things to help people not feel alone.
Right. Well, so, I think that, one of the things that Kim, my family, as you already know, has been through a lot of tragedy in the last couple of years. Death by murder, death by suicide, death by age. But the latest being death by suicide. My nephew, 18 years old, committed suicide. His graduating year, was supposed to be graduating in less than a month. Was a star basketball player. He was a friend to everybody in his school. Everybody said how he encouraged them. All of his teachers said how much of a joy he was. At the funeral, this is the one thing that just blew me away. One of the teachers for one of the classes said that, he would come into our class because she actually taught them more, the class that was a little bit more challenged. And so he would come into the class with a smile and always talk to the other students. And he asked the teacher if he could come in and help mentor these children. And she said that he not only came in, but he was able to encourage other students to come in with him. But this is a young man who thought that he could not take life anymore and took his own life. So one of the things, Kim, that I've been really looking at, and my family's been looking at, is how do we turn pain into purpose? We've done it in every turn, but this one was a little bit different because we're talking about people who have a smile on their face. And there is no warning signs because they have a smile on their face. The thing that we've come to realize, Kim, is that there is a life behind the smile. And that's what we have to get to. People have to understand that it is not your burden to always wear a smile, even when you are not feeling well. You need to open your mouth and let somebody else in. We all have people who have been assigned to us, who can comfort us, we can lean on, who we can tell our troubles to. We do not have to wear the smile when our heart is hurting.
Let me tell you, you weren't able to be on the last session with us at the conference, but we just addressed a little bit of this not an hour ago.
Wow.
In the fact that it was very difficult after the loss of my son. People wanted to say something kind to me and wanted to encourage me, and I would put a smile on because that's what they needed.
Right.
But it was exhausting.
Yes.
Because when you're grieving over something and you're having to put a smile on to show your appreciation for the fact they love you, because that's what I was doing.
Right.
It was exhausting.
Right.
And I think that when you wear a smile and you've got something going on behind the scenes, I think we're taught to do that.
Right. Right. Well, I tell you what, one of the things that I found out, though, Kim, is that that is one of those places that we feel pressured into. We feel pressured to be everybody else's encourager. We feel pressured to be everybody else's smile so that they can feel good about themselves. But here's the thing that I always teach my church. If I keep pouring out as a pitcher of water, I keep pouring out into you, and nobody ever says, hold up, let me pour back into you, guess what begins to happen? My pitcher grows empty. And once my pitcher is empty, I myself have nothing to pull on. So that's when we end up with people who are committing suicide, depressed people who are doing things they don't know what to do anymore with their life because they have poured out all they have.
Yeah. And that comes from so many different arenas.
Yes.
Like your nephew was young.
He was very young. And here's the thing, a lot of people like to say, well, if he had been in church, or I bet he wasn't baptized, or I bet he wasn't, he wasn't regular in church. But let me tell you something. This young man was in the choir. He was a dedicated member of his church. He actually had already been baptized, but his basketball team was on an away trip. They were on an away trip in Arkansas, Kim. And the coach said, they were at the pool. The coach said, who wants to be baptized? He was the first one to raise his hand because he understood that he was a leader. He had already been baptized, but he was a leader. So a leader says, you know what? I'm going to do this again because I know people will follow me and this is good for them. He understood everything that we always talk about in church about God. But he had poured out too much. He had poured out too much and nobody ever poured back in. This has nothing to do with what you know. It has nothing to do with what you know. It has more to do what is going on in your mind. The emotions become too heavy and we don't know how to deal with our emotions, Kim. And this is why, I graciously and humbly, I take on the title, the head coach. Coach meaning controlling outcomes and creating harmony. My doctorate is in Christian counseling with an emphasis on emotional intelligence. And I'm not proud of it, but I own it. Because of the fact that I understand that we have to get to a point as a people. I don't care who you are. We have to get to a point as people that we can control our own emotions so that we can begin to really realize what life is. If we are sad, we need to embrace the sadness and understand why it is that we're sad. If we're angry, we need to embrace the anger and understand why it is that we're angry. These are not negative negative emotions, these are warning signs.
And there are things we need to take and give the time to.
Yes.
We're in such a hurry to get better that we don't always take the time to look at those things. But I think also from the point of someone, if someone who is normally giving and smiling and happy starts to talk, sometimes people, they don't listen right away. They just they do what they can to make you laugh and perk you up. And it takes a little repetition sometimes for someone to actually stop and recognize, whoa, there's some pain going on here. And we need to listen better when someone actually expresses something.
Well, you know, one of the problems is that as a people, we're too busy. Yeah. We've gotten way too busy. We're too busy to listen to someone else. We're too busy to care about someone else. We're too busy to love on someone else. We're way too busy to stop and listen to another person's issue. We always say, get over it. We always say, you can get over it. We always say, keep on moving. We always want to push them to go, but they need a moment to be able to sit still. Give me a safe place to sit still and talk about what's on my mind, what's on my heart, so that I can move forward. But if I don't get this thing off of me, I'm going to move forward with a heavy weight that I'm not meant to carry. And if I do that, I'm a danger to others and myself.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, just a princess opinion, but I think that we are guilty as a society of teaching people not to tell the truth. You know, not to express their emotion, because then you're putting a demand on me to do something when it's easier for me if you just go ahead and smile and go on about your business, because I don't want to slow down, or I don't want to deal with it, or I don't know how to deal with it. And so, you know, you tell boys, don't cry, suck it up. You know, you tell girls, oh, well, they're just emotional. You know, both ends of the spectrum.
And don't tell me twice that you're feeling bad, because it should have been fixed the first time you told me and I made you smile.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. We think that a smile means that it's better, and that is not the case. A smile does not mean that I'm better. A smile means that I am coping. Yeah. That's what a smile means. A smile means that I can still put on a smile even though I'm hurting bad. So that means that I can actually cope. So I'm able to smile. I'm not wearing the frown that I feel on the inside. But you better watch out, though, because when the frown does show up, when the frown shows up, then that means that I've crossed over into a place that is called danger.
An explosive place.
That's exactly correct. That's exactly correct. And when we get to that point, it's almost too late. It's almost too late. You know, many people say, well, you know, if we had called him before he committed suicide, you know, everybody said if I had been in place, you know, if I had been here, if I had been there, he wouldn't have done it. You know what? We may have stopped it at that moment, but he had already crossed over to a place called danger. To a place called danger. When a person crosses over into that place, it takes now them being in isolation. They have to be in a place called an asylum. They got to be put in treatment and held there until they come back to themselves. Because if we let them go anytime soon, eventually that thought process comes back and they're right back where they were, because we have not healed the true issue. The problem that we have right now in society is that we are so bent on dealing with fruit and we never touch a root. So we think that if we can make the fruit look real good that's coming on the tree, that the tree is okay. And that's not the case. That tree still has a disease in it. And just because one fruit came out okay, it does not mean the rest won't be bad. So until we get to the root of issue, we cannot change anything.
Wow. I think that we need to stop for a second and let people process what you just said, because that really is a deep thing that you're saying. You know, we look at the outside. Right. You know, and we ignore the inside. Yeah. I'm tired, I worked all day, so go play, you know, with your kids. Or I'm I'm busy. I'm sure you'll be fine, you know, and
Right.
you leave people in a mess that
Right.
that once they cross over. I like your analogy of crossing over,
Yeah.
because when you get to that other place, things that would never have been a possibility. I mean, taking his own life was not a possibility if he was not crossed over.
Right.
I mean,
Right. Exactly correct. Exactly correct. I mean, and this is the thing. If unless we are really paying attention, we don't notice it. Unless we're really paying attention, we don't notice it. And so we allow the smiles to fool us. Anytime anybody always tells you that they're excellent, they're okay, everything is fine, you need to stop and take a moment with them, because we're not okay all the time. We all have issues that we go through. We may process them very well, though. You know, some people can process them a lot quicker. Some people are very good at that. But guess what? We still need some time to talk those things through to make sure that we are okay. Because sometimes we think we're okay when really deep inside we're not. And this is a real problem with men and boys. This is a real problem because we are brought up, like you said earlier, we're told, you know, get over it. You know, I remember growing up, every time I hurt myself, it was get up, run it off, shake it off. You know, keep moving. You know, I tell people all the time, you know, my dad did not hug me, did not kiss my cheek until he was almost gone. It was 3 years before he passed away. He told me he loved me twice, although I knew he loved me because he did what he thought love meant, you know, working hard, preparing and providing for the family. But I needed an embrace. I needed to hear the words, but we did not get it. You know, we teach men that it's not okay to cry, that shows that you are a wimp. You are weak if you cry. We show them that they shouldn't show too much love because then you'll be taken advantage of. These things are untruths. They are untruths, and they have weakened us to the point to where we don't want to show emotion when we feel it, and we need to let it out the most.
well, and I want to address something really quickly, and that is that, you know, I was on the phone with you. We were actually messaging when you got the news that this had happened. There was nothing at that point, like, none of your family, you have a great family, that wasn't part of the problem. Like, no, it wasn't a thing that everybody was ignoring this boy.
Right.
It wasn't a thing that you all, like, your entire family is not the problem, is what I'm saying. I just want to make sure that we address that real quick, because as a mom, losing her son and then hearing us talk about it as if, like, we have some answer that she done something different. I don't want that to come across at all that way.
Right. Well, I tell you what, my sister, she's a lovely woman. She's actually taking this a whole lot better than I believe most mothers would. It was her idea. She called me up. She said, Marcus, I got to do something. I want to start a foundation, an awareness group or something. And she said, I want to call it Behind the Smile. So this whole Behind the Smile thing is hers because he had a beautiful smile. He was always smiling. But she said we couldn't see the pain that was behind the smile. We couldn't see it. And so that's really where she wants to push, you know, because we understand that, you know, this smile is a great smile. It looks good. We appreciate the smile. But are you smiling because you really feel like smiling?
Well, and, you know, it sounds like, because in my blog and in my books, I write a little bit about psychology because I love a lot of people who've been pretty broken at times.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like the things that we typically say, this will help you to get out of depression, he was doing. He was helping people. You know, so often when we're in depression, we close up inside ourselves and it becomes all about us. But he was reaching out to lead others, and he was actually, you know, going to this class to help these kids who needed a hand and trying to be that mentor. But when you're still, especially when you're still young, but really at any time in life, it can come as a surprise to you when you think you have things together, and then there's this sinkhole that's opening up inside of you, and your life is starting to go underground, and you're like, why is this happening? You may do the right things. And I encourage anybody, if you're depressed, to reach out and help others, because it really does help. But you still might need help from somebody else outside of you to pull you by the arm so that you don't go under.
And there's no shame in that.
No, there's not. We are not just smart minds. We are not just clever answers. We're not made up of logic. We're made up of chemicals and wiring that we still don't understand thousands of years after beginning to try to explore it. We're made up of spirit. And sometimes we have to go, there's something wrong that's not getting better. And I need help for that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a lot of the things that we say helps with depression just simply mask it for a while, or it takes our mind off of depression for a while. But here's the thing. When I stop helping you, I still got to go home.
Yeah, and you can't just one. You have to do one and the other. Yes. Just pour out, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we have to help people to find the balance. We got to help people find the balance. What do I do when I'm finished helping? What do I do when I'm finished smiling and encouraging someone else? How do I take that same encouraging that I was giving someone else? How do I take that home to encourage myself? Who do I go to make sure that I am okay? You know, one of the things that my sister and I had to tell her, you know, my nephew, we just buried my nephew last week, and she's already out there trying to do things. You know, she's been called by 3 different people who have tried to commit suicide since then. We've had people who are very close to us who have tried to commit suicide since then, young ladies trying to commit suicide. And she's running to the hospital. And she said, Marcus, I got to do this. I got to do this now. I want to do this now. I said, no, I will not let you do it now. I'm going to help you do it. We're going to get it done. We're going to write the vision. We're going to make it plain, but we won't do it now. You go home. You spend the rest of the week mourning, because either you do it now or it's going to come up later when we need you strong. So take care of it now so that you don't break when we need you the most.
That's right.
Let me just tell you, I looked up because I wanted to know the stats.
Mm-hmm.
And the stats say that suicide is the second leading cause of death for ages 10 to 24.
Whoa.
And there are more teenagers and young adults that die from suicide than from cancer, heart disease, AIDS, birth defects, stroke, pneumonia, influenza, and chronic lung disease combined.
Wow. Combined. Wow. Well, that just goes to show how, and see, I truly believe that this is an issue that has really been caused by society, because society is we don't have the embrace anymore. We don't talk anymore. We don't spend time with each other anymore. Communicating is IMing on Facebook or texting. We don't even call each other anymore. So we don't get a chance to hear that human voice that calms us down anymore. And so while we have is TV, video games, and Facebook to go by. And so these things have desensitized us. And so we don't know what to do anymore with these emotions that we have.
Well, when you're online with someone, you can share great ideas, right? Yeah, but when you're physically next to someone, there are pheromones that are happening. There are other things that bring you comfort and a feeling of belonging and a feeling of connection. Yes. And, the way we become more and more isolated from each other, it's funny. I go to the church that I go to because I can't walk through the door without being hugged by 3 people. I went to church all over town, and
I love it.
Like smile at me, but nobody ever really said anything. And I walk in this door, and there's at least 3 people that want to wrap their arms around me, and I recognize how important that is. Because
you're so touchy-feely.
I am, but I also know, from times of being single, I realize, if you're not married to someone in our society, it's just generally not accepted to.
That's right. That's right.
Something that happens to our psyche
Yes.
when that spell is broken and we're able to just do this, and we're with each other, we smell each other, and we sit through the boring parts together, right? If I'm only chatting online, then you're only hearing the interesting stuff, and you're not dealing with those like awkward silences or the little, hey, we've got to figure out something to do because we're both bored, and those are really important.
Right. Well, you know what? That's one of the cornerstones of our church. We do not, and everybody knows this. My people at my church, when they invite folks, they warn them ahead of time. Our pastors love to hug. We do. We try to hug everybody that comes in. If you walk out my doors before I get a chance to hug you, I'm trying to chase you down into the hall because I want to put my arms around you. So I believe that we all need to feel loved.
I'm a witness.
I know that's right, Kim. I know we hugged you twice. See? Hey, even when we're mad at you, we're going to hug on you.
You do have a funny story. Like, tell me about it. Pastor Marcus didn't always like this princess.
No, not at all.
Is just so everybody knows the end of the story. He loves me, and we're all good.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And there's nothing you can do about it.
She can be a pushy princess.
Oh my goodness.
Oh God.
Well, you know, if someone's out there listening and they are, you know, they're struggling and they've been through this facade. I'm going to call it, you know, we've built this pretend castle, and we're not going to let anybody in because if we let somebody in, it's dangerous
or pointless. Maybe it feels pointless.
What would you say to them, like right now, that could maybe give them, you know, some hope of doing something different? Or what do they need to do if they've crossed over and they feel that desperate feeling? What did they do? What did the parents do? What did the people around them do? I mean, give us some practical hands-on what can happen, because we can talk about all this.
Right.
But if we don't have some way to affect it or impact it, then we've just been talking.
Right. Well, I think number one, if you recognize the issue, you really have to, at that point, if the issue is recognizable, then they're at a very dangerous point. So loving on them is absolutely excellent. Talking to them is excellent, but you're probably not going to get a voice to speak back to you right now because they're already at a point of being angry, being disappointed. They're at a point of frustration. They're at a point where their mind is made up that this life is not worth me living. At that point, you have to force them some. You have to force them some. You have to get them to someone that can actually help them. And that's just the case. You know, we cannot be afraid. I believe that every profession is here for a purpose, and we have to understand that. And don't be afraid to go get help or to take somebody to get help. They're going to go screaming. They're going to be mad at you. That's to happen. They will be mad, but you have to get them help.
I gotta say, since you talk about that, I don't think I've ever told you. I don't know if I have. So, probably about 16 years ago, maybe 17, I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning with my husband sitting on the bed next to me saying, I could shoot us both. And, you know, I had that dream mind going on, and I thought it was Martha Stewart, and then I went, whoa, what? And he sank to the floor with his hands in his hair, and he was just broken. And I knew, I mean, we had been dealing with a bipolar for a while at that point. Nobody had ever recognized it before I had married him, and it wasn't hard to miss. It wasn't easy to miss, I guess. But we had been, you know, he'd been seeking treatment and stuff, but it just, he was just eaten up with inadequacy and depression and desolation. And, have we lost sound? Oh, okay. And so I Baker acted him that night. That's what they called it in Florida when you take him to the hospital and don't let him go home. because he needs some stabilization. Now they don't do.
We did lose him.
Yeah, we did lose him. He's gonna come back on in just a moment.
Yeah, he'll come back.
He'll come back, but I'll just tell you guys, they don't fix everything. They hold you for 24 to 36 hours, and it's still a process. Basically, they're going to keep you safe, and it is hard. When we were sitting there waiting for the doctor, he kept trying to convince me to let him leave, but I'm really glad I didn't. And now, over the next 6 months, maybe longer, we would go through periods where he would be screaming at me to let him die.
Oh, wow.
And the man he is today, it's hard to even imagine him ever having been that person. And the relationship we have today is just impossible to think of us really having been in that situation, except in conversations like this when it's very, very vivid.
Right.
But there's hope. You don't stay stuck, right? You get safety, and then you get help. And then you keep going forward with help. And there are times that it doesn't feel worth it. There are times that it's like, why did you bother to let me live? It's never going to get better. That was 16 years ago, and it wasn't until about 4 years ago that he stopped saying frequently, I just wish I could die. And he started, maybe 6 years ago, but he started a few years ago saying, wow, we're blessed. God has blessed us.
Wow.
And this is a man that at one point thought God just hated him and had designed the world to make him miserable, and so it's a progress thing, but I am so grateful for who he is today. And there is, all you have to do is stick around.
Yeah, because that's totally different than he is now.
Yeah, he is not that person at all.
Yeah.
Pastor Marcus is trying to get back on.
Okay.
We are having a few technical difficulties, and I'm just going to say it's okay.
Yeah.
We are pressing on, and hopefully he will be the sound will work. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
He's making a really cute face.
Okay.
Oh, wait, here he is. I see him. I can't hear you, though.
We've had some funnies today. I will just stop and say.
Technical tension breaker. That's what that was.
Oh my goodness. We get all serious, and then the thing will close out. So we just want you to know that we think it's really good timing sometimes.
Sometimes. Oh my goodness.
Being impacted by that kind of thing is very, it changes you. It changes what you think about things. Can you hear us, Pastor Marcus?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you now.
All right. Excellent. I apologize for that. We always have these technical things that happen from time to time. So
I think it's a princess problem. I think I'm
She's too hot. She fries the equipment.
It's funny. Well, Kristi was sharing her experience with, with her husband and the struggle. I mean, the struggle of knowing when to call someone, what to do, when to intervene. I think that's probably the right word.
And the fact that it's not necessarily something that's over immediately. It's something that takes time, and it takes a lot of patience and a whole lot of prayer. I mean, there were after he was locked up just for his safety for a few days, he wasn't perfect after that. He had stabilized enough that he wasn't actively trying to shoot himself, and I had managed to find another hiding place for the gun that we finally sold. But it took months of where he would periodically just be screaming, just kill me. And then after that, it was a few years where periodically he would just be like, I just don't want to keep waking up, and then it became I might stick around for a while. And then now it's, God has really blessed us. We tell each other almost daily, we are blessed. He does it. And does, really sweet things to just let me know that he is here for the long haul. And I'm just like, amazed. So different, the person he is now than the person he was then. And all he had to do was stick around and just keep trying. And
Right.
alone, we tried together,
Well, I think that's one of the key things that, to be honest, most people who commit suicide, they really don't want to die. They just can't figure out why to live. And that's the issue. And so what's going on is so rough that they can't see that it's going to end. And the thing that we have to understand is that trouble does not last always. These are seasons that we go through. And that's the piece that I love, is that it is a through process. And it is difficult to understand that when you are the one going through it. It's difficult to hear it when you're the one going through it. It's difficult to hear that, this too shall pass, when everything seems like it's all falling down on you. If it's not one thing, it's another. If it's not this, it's that. It's difficult for me to be able to understand that, because I cannot see anything other than the issue that I'm in. But if we have people around us who love us enough to keep pouring into us life, keep telling us it's going to be okay, keep telling us it is worth living for, keep telling us that they love us. A lot of times what happens is that people, if they know someone loves them enough, they hold on just a little bit longer. And sometimes all we need is a little bit longer for things to turn in our favor.
Yes, because we're not in control of the world.
No.
And it feels like things have always been this way. Every time he was manic, it felt like he was king of the world and everything had always been beautiful. But every time he was depressed, it felt like everything had always been desolate and would never be any different. And he felt like there was no future, because he felt like he had to control the future. There was no future if he couldn't make one. Well, that's not true. You stick around and a future is going to happen, and it takes teamwork, partnership. It takes complete unexpected circumstances. It takes, God is always working around us, is one of the things that I firmly believe. And he's not just saying, well, what are you going to do? He's
right.
Going, oh, well, let me just drop a little love note here. Let me just send a person right here. Let me just give you something interesting to take your mind off of yourself.
Right.
He is always at work.
Yeah, and Kim, she opened it up, so I'm gonna have to step in that door.
Yeah.
One thing we must understand is that God loves us, regardless if anybody else does or not. God does. And it is very difficult at times when we are going through issues to believe that God loves us. But we don't understand that God allows us sometimes to go through things, not to destroy us, but to make us stronger. And so it is up to us to lean and depend on him a little bit differently than we have before, understanding that he is true to his word, that this thing shall pass, that we will have victory. And when we come out on the other side, we're going to be that strong person that everybody is going to be able to look at and say, my God, look at them. I remember when. One of the things that I think is the greatest testimony to any person, but especially God, is when people can look at you and say, I remember when.
Yes. And Tracy said it this morning. This life is going to have trouble. There's no guarantee that if we believe in God, we're not going to have trouble. Because then, as soon as we have trouble, what, we just stop believing that? Well, you must. What? No. He's the good guy that's there to carry us through the trouble.
That's right.
Equip us.
That's right.
And sometimes he equips us internally with strength, but other times he equips us with friends.
That's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. I just think that, it is always good. It's good to have a place that you call a home church, a pastor that you can depend on to go talk to. But I always tell people, especially even my congregation, don't just depend on me. Right. Get a relationship with God yourself. so that you can go to him in your time of trouble, because you may not always be able to reach me. You may not always be able to get to me, but you can always get to God. He's always listening. He's always watching. He's always concerned.
I get tickled at you because you get fired up. You get fired up for the right reason.
Yes.
Yes.
You are telling the truth. And, some people don't know how to have a relationship with God.
Right.
They don't know how to have a relationship with the pastor because maybe they've been hurt. They don't
Right.
know how to have a relationship with a church body because, sometimes we are the meanest people on the planet.
Or we just seem weird compared to what they're used to.
Because not all churches understand that we're supposed to be good to people. I mean, I'm just being real.
Yeah.
Right.
If they are not connected already, they're not likely to connect at that crisis point.
Right. Exactly.
I think it's a pre-connection.
Yes.
Exactly correct. I think way too often we wait until there is an issue to try to find an answer when we ought to be embracing the answer before there is an issue. Because if you right now you're saying now everything is good in my life, then this is when you need to be in somebody's church right now. This is when you need to be forming relationships with people who actually care about you, people who have your best interest in mind, because guaranteed the tide will turn, the season will turn. Things are not going to always be good for you. Things are not going to always be smooth. The trees are not going to always be green. The flowers are not going to always be in bloom. There's going to be that fall and that winter season that we have to go through, because if we don't go through them, we do not grow. Those are the seasons in which we have to come down so that God can keep feeding us and nurture us so that we can come back in the spring and summer and we can be more beautiful than we were before. But we got to go through things in order to get strong. And if we don't go through them, what good is my faith if I never have anything that I have to use it in? What good is belief if there isn't any issues that cause me to have to believe beyond? What good is all those things if I've never tested? Those things have to be tested. And so we have to understand that, and we had to keep on moving. It's easier said than done. It is easier said than done, but it can be done.
Well, and it's not pessimism. There are some people who think that the fact that we talk about grief and we talk about heartache is
right.
Because we just like to wallow in it or we're pessimistic. But no, it's like living in Minnesota and saying spring is going to last forever. That ain't going to happen. If spring lasted forever in Washington, you wouldn't get those amazing apples and those. Right. You have to have the change of the season to get the sweet fruit that actually nourishes.
That's right.
Around you. And so I love that you use the seasons there, because it really is the same in our lives. You can't go from kindergarten to 12th grade without having some tests. You can't raise a crop without having some seasons, and you can't have a purposeful life worth living.
Right.
It can be very fulfilling.
Yes.
Don't have something at some point, and that doesn't mean you make it for yourself. Don't make crappy decisions just so you can go through bad stuff, right? But you gotta accept that the hard stuff's going to happen, so that at some point you can look back and go, I'm here. I'm still here, and life's better than I ever thought it would be.
That's right. That's right.
This is your interview, and I just keep talking. But you have I tell you what, you just really inspired me today. I appreciate it.
Well, it is always my pleasure. I'm always excited to talk about the things of the heart and of the mind, because I truly believe that our soul is what hurts. If we truly get a chance to understand, if God allows us, the body, the church, to begin to understand that mental illness is a serious thing, and it is a mental illness is nothing but a damaged soul. Man is made of spirit, soul, and body, and mental illness is a damaged soul. The will, the emotions, and the intellect, it's damaged, and it's damaged because we go through life. Things happen to us, and every time something happens to us if we do not correct the issue. If we don't address the issue, the damage gets worse. It's like having a crack in a wood table. If you never take care of it, if you never feel that crack just keeps separating until your table breaks. And that's what happens to our souls. And that's why people commit suicide.
And that's not an accusation, and it's not an insult to say, hey,
No,
there's
by no means.
If I drive my car and I make it safely through a hailstorm, there's going to be some damage there.
Yes.
If I drive my car, I'm going to have to change the oil and the spark plugs once in a while. Things have to be
That's right.
fixed.
That's right.
With who we are, we just have to be able to acknowledge this isn't a saying I'm bad. This is saying, hey, I've got some wear and tear. That
Right. Well, you think about it this way. We maintenance everything else. We drive our cars millions of miles. We live in our house for years, and both of those things we get constant maintenance on. We're constantly maintenance them. Our bodies, we maintenance our bodies. At least I think most of us do. Either we try to eat right at some time. We try to exercise sometimes. At least we do it sometime. But we don't maintenance the mind. We don't maintenance the soul. And so that piece of us needs maintenance. It gets hurt more than anything. Like you said before, Kim, you were talking about church hurt. That's why a lot of people don't go to church anymore. What is church hurt? That is a damaged soul. Something happened in the church that damaged the soul. The soul said, you know what? I don't want to go back anymore. That's how I'm going to deal with this emotion. I'm not going back anymore. That's not the right way to deal with it. So we have to deal with it correctly. It's not being maintenance. That's like saying, okay, you know what? My car is spitting now. I'm going to go put it in the garage and never drive it again. Doesn't work that way.
Right?
Yeah, but you're exactly right. We throw the whole concept of going to church out if we've been hurt, or
right.
Or even like psychologists or therapists. We throw that whole piece out because that's, we can't do that because of pride either.
Right.
We'll just pull away from everything that's actually going to give us an answer or help us. We pull away from.
Right. Well, you know what, Kim, one of the things that I think that people misunderstand about therapists, number one, is that their main job is just to listen. We don't have to say a word 9 times out of 10. When I do counseling sessions and true counseling sessions, people come in and I ask maybe 1 or 2 questions. They begin talking. Once they begin talking, I ask them another question. So what do you think about that? How do you feel about that? They begin talking again. Before the counseling session is over with, they've already came up with the right answer. They just need somebody to listen. I don't have to say much. And that's what therapists really do. That's what counselors do. We listen. We listen. Sometimes you just need somebody to listen. You know the answer. You already know the answer. You just need to talk it out.
Yes.
But finding someone who will actually listen is the key.
Yeah.
That is the key.
That's one of the things that's really difficult, because if we're not paying a therapist that's their job to listen to us.
Right.
It's hard to find somebody that will slow down. You were talking about the time, factor.
Yeah.
That's the truth. We are surrounded by people who actually need us to listen, but we don't have time.
And we need to stop, because a lot of times they won't repeat themselves.
Yes. Well, you know what? You got a true friend if your friend doesn't always have to talk. That's a true friend. You got a true friend if you can begin talking and giving them your day and spilling out your guts, and all they do is sit there and listen and shake their head every once in a while. They don't have to interject anything. They don't have to correct you. They don't have to change your mind. They don't have to give you any advice. They just listen. That's a real friend. A real friend understands that sometimes you just need to talk.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's really good stuff. And, I want to point out, because you're giving all this advice, and I want to point out that you live this.
Yeah.
This is something important. You are definitely giving great advice, but you live this. You and your beautiful princess bride.
Yes. That's my girl.
Actually proved this in a huge way, even to me, because we were friends, but I had to go on a trip, and I was traveling by myself, and you all were relentless in checking on me. Like,
yes, I remember.
Do you remember
about that? She told me about that.
And I was so touched by the fact that you weren't just talking. People will tell you, be safe on your trip.
This was an overnight thing. thing, and you guys kept on getting on the phone and making sure she was okay. I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah. A true friend cares, a true friend cares, and a true friend understands when there is a need that you're not telling them that there's a need for. A true friend has your heart. The Bible says that we weep when you weep, we smile when you smile, we laugh when you laugh, we hurt when you hurt, and that is true. There is no greater love than that of a friend. A friend loves greater than a brother or sister does.
A true one.
A true one.
Action. That's not just a feeling. That's not just an emotional action. That's goes beyond that.
And the thing is as friends, we don't take advantage of that. Like you don't have that feeling if I'm not traveling alone and I am, safe and all that. You all don't have to know where I am every day. Well, I mean, I just want to clarify that though, because we don't get to talk every day. It's not that. But you all knew, and you felt like I was tired, which was true.
Right.
I was tired. I had been I think I was on a series of events at that point. And the fact that you all cared enough to stop and make sure, and I'll never forget your words, and this seems like so nothing to a lot of people, but I understand you all are busy.
Oh, yeah.
And you told me that, look, if you get sleepy, call and we'll talk to you till you get there. I wasn't getting there till I think 2 a.m. And you all had to get up and go do, all of your stuff. You own businesses. You have a church to run. You do amazing things. You're a community leader. I mean, you have all this, but you were going to talk to me in case I got sleepy. And I think, you and Pastor Angela are precious to me. I mean, you all have always been precious to me, but that just was a proof in the pudding.
Yes.
Well, you know what? Let me tell you something. Work will always be there. Things will always be there, but people may not. And that's what we have to begin to look at. We have to begin to love people more than we do the things, more than we do the jobs, more than we do the money that we can make, more than we do all of the opportunities. We have to love people more than that, because people may not be there. And if we're not taking care of the people in our lives, the opportunities may not be there either.
I'm telling you, that is like good stuff. We are so out of time, but you rocked this session, because anybody that's having issues, I do encourage you to reach out to somebody. Reach out to one of us. Reach out to somebody that I mean, don't let not knowing someone or being prideful or all of the other things that can happen. Don't let those things keep you from reaching out and getting help and being able to get past that, because man, you're right about crossing over to the danger zone.
Yeah.
How can people get a hold of you? Your church, or the offerings that you have.
Well, everybody can get in touch with us via either one of our websites. You can go to www.marcuslhoward.com. That's MarcuslHoward.com. Or our church website, which is www.mychurch365.org. Or you can get to my academy that Kim so graciously spoke of at bgdacademy.org. bgdacademy.org.
All right.
And BDG means what?
Believing Go Digital Academy. Thanks to the great Princess Kim.
And to think you didn't like me at first.
Yes, but you brought out the best in me. That was a great idea that you had, and we are so thankful to you for pulling that piece out and just redirecting and focusing us so that we could make that academy a reality.
And the truth is, you give me way too much credit, because it was already in you. It was already in the works. You just didn't know it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say.
But you redirected the focus so we can make it happen.
With your teeth clenched. And if anybody gets a chance to go check it out, because I mean, this is the thing about Pastor Marcus. I have not met, I've met thousands and thousands of people, but there's only a handful of people that I know if they are given a task to do, if they have 7 days to do it, you're going to get it in 6.
All right.
If you say, you need to change this thing, a lot of times before we would get off the phone, he would already have sent it. So, I mean, I think you and Pastor Angela are the bomb. I mean, you all are awesome. And the fact that you all have been through so much, and yet you still are pressing on and being such a blessing to everybody around you, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you all being in my life.
Well, Kim, you know what? We're so grateful for you as well. But the reason why we're able to do that is because we have each other. When I'm down, she helps me. When she's down, I help her. We constantly pull each other up and down. And so that's what we do. We make sure that we don't get too high-minded. We make sure that we don't get too low. And we keep each other balanced. And that's what we have to do. And I'm excited that you're going to have her speaking on your platform for Hope to Hope here in a couple of days. So I can't wait to witness that myself. And everybody's going to be blessed by it. I promise you.
I agree, because she's a powerhouse.
Yes. Yes, that is my love. I tell you what, she has a great message, and the world just needs to hear it.
And you two are just adorable, just like the way that you all are together. I love to be around you all because you just are, you're awesome individually, but as a couple, you all are just adorable. Just adorable.
God bless you. We appreciate you, Kim.
Well, you need to go off of here and get busy charging the world because you're gonna, do something today that'll change the world. I know you.
You better believe it. We're headed to change the world now. We got a great service that we're going to be doing tomorrow for Good Friday, and we're preparing for that. But we are always touching people because our church is in the mall, so we get a chance. As soon as I hang up from you, I'm going right out into the mall, and I'm going to be talking to everybody and shaking hands and making people smile.
Well, let me say this before you get off, so that we can make sure my information is all correct. Not only is Pastor Marcus an incredible pastor, and they sing, they do all kinds of awesome things at church, but Sunday is actually Easter. And so I know that a lot of people that don't go to church any other time of the year will go on Easter. And if you don't go to church, well, I'll just call it like it is.
It is true. It's true.
Church, I really suggest if you're anywhere near Tulsa, Oklahoma, go and check out Pastor Marcus's church because they will love on you. If you don't like hugs, that's not the place to go.
If you don't like hugs,
absolutely,
they're healthy for your body.
There you go.
It's at the Promenade, right?
That's right. We are at the Tulsa Promenade Mall, Suite 251, right upstairs by JCPenney's. Take the glass elevator up, get off, close your eyes, walk forward. You'll run right into our door.
All right.
Or the second alternative is follow the sweet music.
Or follow the music. We start at 12 noon.
All right.
So see, you don't even have an excuse. You can sleep in on Easter Sunday, still get up and look all beautiful and go to church at noon.
That's right.
Well, thank you, Pastor Marcus.
Thank you, Kim and Kristi. We appreciate you so much.
Such a pleasure.
Love you.
Bye.
Have a blessed one. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. Thank you guys for coming to the Hope to Hope conference. Yes. We're kind of pathetic at this point. I am anyway. Oh. These girls are awesome, but I'm pretty pathetic because I love Pastor Marcus. I'm Kim White with the My Sexy Business team.
I'm Kristi Bridges with One Moment Wiser.
And we will be back in about half an hour at 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock.
She did it?
4 o'clock Vegas. I can't think of another one. Vegas time. We'll be back with the Q&A and kind of a wrap up. So if you have a chance to get on with us again, we're going to talk about all these awesome speakers today. So love you guys.